Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your man Soul here. Welcome back to the channel. You know what it is when you clicked it. Yo, I apologize for not posting, in the past couple of days, but y'all know what it is. It's pre-patch. Death Knights are out. As you can see, my avatar is dancing a little bit, doing a little jig, because you know what time it is. Everybody's leveling, gearing, and doing whatever to their DKs, amongst other alts and new mains and stuff like that. And, my job was no different. So in today's video, we'll be talking about, the experiences of pre-patch, what you should be looking out for, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and just overall a little bit of DK tips. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Alright, so first thing I'm going to say is, I'm having a blast as a Death Knight. So it took me about a day and a half to level. I kind of allotted that time for myself, and primarily what I was doing is I was doing the Blood Furnace farm. I'm sure you guys have heard it, where you go into Blood Furnace, you get off the Death Knight Island, and you just solo clear. And it's really good XP, especially in my case, to where I had to take frequent breaks due to responsibilities or to kids, because as soon as you jump back in, you're making so much XP in a short amount of time that it kind of defeated the purpose for me in my case to quests, because it's like, all right, I'm on the quest, I gotta pick up the quest, I gotta travel to the quest destination, I gotta kill mobs, maybe, who knows if it's even a mob killing quest, but assuming that it is, I gotta kill mobs and get maybe 8 to 1k XP, whereas in Blood Furnace I was getting, at the beginning anyway, I was definitely getting like 3800 XP per kill at 60, and it progressively went down to the point where at 68 I was getting about 2500 XP per kill, but it was still significantly more than what I would have gotten per mob kill in like a quest, right, or in a full group, right, because I was going in there by myself. I was just me, myself, and I, and my buffs. So the Blood Furnace farm was really efficient for me, just because I had to do frequent stops, I had to take care of some things, and when I got back and was able to make these long stretches, I was able to maximize my time in my experience gain. So if you are leveling a DK and you do have to make frequent stops, or if you maybe are just a grinder and you can like put your nose to the keyboard and just straight up clear Blood Furnace over and over and reset, I think it's a really good efficient grind, especially just for solo play. So that's one tip I would definitely give as far as pre-patch stuff is concerned. Alright, so now that we got the grind part out the way, like the leveling part, you might be asking, I bet you hit 70, what's next? And fortunately for me, I got a lot of help from my guild. I was able to do ZA runs, do Kara runs, do Black Temple, and just have any unwanted tank gear. And since I was the only tank, not the only tank, but since I was the only one looking for tank gear, it was funneled to me, right? So anything that I really wanted, I kind of got, and that really helped. But for times where I wasn't in a raid group or dungeon group, I was just doing AV. The honor gains are really efficient, especially since they have removed the battleground marks. So when you win or lose, you don't get any marks anymore, and you're just getting honor. But in my opinion, the most efficient and fastest way is to grind Alterac Valley. Now, on average, I was getting about 900 honor, not XP, but honor per win, and about 300, 350-ish per loss. And both of those things were happening relatively quickly. Like a loss, it was happening maybe within the first 8 to 10 minutes, and a win was about maybe the first 10 to 12 minutes. Like, it wasn't an incredibly long time I was dedicating to AV and getting these, really good honor farms. Now, I will say this, the call to arms this weekend is Warsong Gulch, and I did do the Warsong Gulch, and it was a lot of honor when we won. I think I got like 516 honor when we won. Plus, I turned in the Call to Arms quest and I got another 838. So it was a really good honor farm, not gonna lie. But I felt like Warsong Ghost can just drag to the point where, yeah, you're getting honor kills, like you're getting honor from kills, but it just felt so slow to me. So I think the best bang for your buck is definitely just, mindlessly spam AV, and you could change it up. You can, go straight to Drek, or you can go straight to, the first mini boss, then go straight to Drek and sit there, or you can like change your route up a little bit, play around with it, maybe go on defense for a little bit. So I think the best honor farm is definitely AV, but if you don't want to do AV, play around with it. But I was saying that to say, the Brutal Gladiator gear is just so much better than a lot of the raid gear, even comparable to Sunwell gear, that you'd be a fool not to try to get some of it. like especially like the weapons. Now, me personally, I didn't jump and get the weapon first immediately because I got a weapon out of ZA. So the jump for me from getting the brutal gladiator weapon and replacing my ZA weapon wasn't that big of a jump, but I was still wearing like blues. I was still wearing, you know, that fell steel gear that I had from the auction house. I still had some of the Death Knight starter gear. So getting the armor pieces for me was a little bit better with what I was trying to replace, but I'm not gonna lie to you and say that you shouldn't buy the brutal gladiator weapons. It's a really, really big upgrade, and it's definitely gonna help you when you're leveling. So definitely do that. As far as raids are concerned, yo, I did BT. Really, I did all the raids, but BT was the one I was kind of like about. I did BT as a freshly made 70 Death Knight with blues and like 2 pieces of brutal gladiator gear, and all of those bosses are a joke. If you don't know, all of the raids really are like easy mode. Like the bosses are just doing a fraction of the damage that, you know, we've known them to do for the past couple of weeks or couple of months, right? So it's not even, you know, a challenge. I went to Illidan, and on some like sites I was seeing that he doesn't do shear anymore. Like it's removed from his ability table. And I quickly found out that it wasn't removed from his ability table, but also found out that it didn't fucking matter. Like I got sheared twice and I was not in danger at all. Like it was crazy that a new, freshly geared, not even geared, like a freshly made tomb that's like semi-geared can tank through a shear on Illidan. Crazy. So yeah, BT, ZA, Gruul, Mag, even probably Sunwell is just a joke. So if you have the opportunity to go get that gear, go ahead and get it. But outside of the raid environment, I would definitely be doing some honor farming that AV and getting these brutal gladiator pieces. Okay, so I want to talk about talents real quick in the pre-patch, because I feel like this is the one thing that I always see come up in my conversations, things that get DM'd to me, stuff like that. And obviously it's because Death Knights just got released, so people are experimenting with it more. So I just kind of want to give my take on it. So for the blood tree, this is kind of what I've been using as my PvE build, right? This is what I've been using when I'm tanking dungeons, when I'm tanking raids, so on and so forth. So the talents I've been using is 5 out of 5 bladed barrier, 5/5 bladed armor, 1 out of 3 scent of blood. I'm still skipping two-handed weapon specialization, but because the two-handed weapons are pretty good, like the gladiator weapons, and if you can get yourself a Napoleon or a Cataclysm's Edge, you're set. I wouldn't be mad at someone taking this talent, but I'm going to tell you why I don't in a second. But anyway, I got Rune Tap, we got 5 out of 5 Dark Conviction, we got Max Death and Mastery, Max Spell Deflection, Max Veteran, Max Bloody Strikes, Max Improved Rune Tap, Max Abominations, pretty much all the staple shit, right? Unholy Frenzy, sorry, it's not called Hysteria, it's called Unholy Frenzy. Holy Frenzy, Improved Death Strike, Vamp Blood, Lord of Necropolis. That's it, right? Now, as far as two-handed weapon specialization, right? I'm not mad at this talent. Like I said, there's very good two-handed weapons where we are right now. The gladiator weapons, KJ's weapon, Archimon's weapon, right? Those are pretty good weapons. But here's the problem: if you max this out, this is 4% increased increased damage you deal with two-handed weapons, right? So I chose to put these 2 talent points down here in Bloody Vengeance. So Bloody Vengeance is like, if you play the Paladin, it's kind of similar to Vengeance stacks. But what it does is it gives you a stacking 2% bonus to physical damage. So since I have 2 talent points in here, that stacks 3 times, that's 6%. 6% increased physical damage is better than 4% increased damage with the two-handed weapon. That's just how I mathed that out of my head. So I think while these 2 talents might be probably close, I think this is just the better option for both threat and DPS. And again, you all know that not a lot of threat is coming from our physical attacks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But if you had to pick, I would say Bloody Vengeance over two-handed weapon specialization, right? And that's really it for the blood tree. Nothing really major there. And then we have a couple floater talents. So for PvE, I think it's very important, especially because we don't have access to the glyph of death and decay. I think it's really important to get morbidity. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 3 out of 3 virulence. I'm doing 2 out of 5 anticipation, because we're really not in any danger, right? We're really not in any danger of dying too crazily. Like I said, as a freshly leveled 70 Death Knight, I tanked every single boss in Black Temple with no issue. It was not even close to an issue. So what's the next best thing when you can survive? Well, threat. And I think AoE threat is not something that Death Knights falter at all on, but because there's a ramp up portion to it, it can kind of put gaps in our AoE threat. So what I've been doing is getting max virulence, so I get that full hit duration, not duration, but increase, the 3% hit increase. And this doubles as a good PvP talent too, because it causes your diseases, it gives you some dispel protection for your diseases. I don't know why I'm saying that so weirdly, but anyway, this is a good doubling PvE and PvP talent. 2% dodge chance from anticipation, just to give you some sort of avoidance, not mitigation, but avoidance, because if you're getting the brutal gladiator pieces, those don't have dodge or parry on them, right? They have, you know, hit and crit and armor penetration and resilience, so those don't have avoidance stats, so you want to make sure you're not just getting slapped. But after that, I'm getting 3 out of 3 morbidity, because having Death and Decay on a 15-second cooldown is immaculate. I promise you, if you do one dungeon run, right, just one dungeon run, with morbidity and without morbidity, you are going to notice the difference instantaneously. I promise you, I would not lie. So that's why I think it's really important, especially because we don't have the glyph of D&D to get morbidity. And then after that, I'm definitely pivoting over to the Frost Tree. I'm getting improved Icy Touch, maxing that pup out, and I've played with both talents in the first tier. I've done 2 out of 2 Rune Mastery, and then I've also done 2 out of 5 in armor and toughness. And when I'm in raids, I'm doing this. I'm going toughness, and then I'm going the last 5 talent points I'm putting in to Black Ice. This is just to supplement the fact that, again, we don't have the Glyph of Death and Decay. So the increase to Frost and Shadow damage, Death and Decay, Shadow damage, so you get a 10% increase in your Death and Decay plus the cooldown reduction. Now, like I said, there are many ways to play with this, with these last couple of points. So this is my primary PvE build, but I have dual spec, and I'm currently right now I'm running 2 blood specs just to make sure I'm, you know, testing out all of the different talent combinations. So this isn't something that I'm taking into every single raid. Like, this is a great 10-man run because 10-mans are going so fast, and I need Death and Decay up for each, you know, pack pull. This is really good, and I also use this in Black Temple. But if you're not doing raids just yet, or you kind of want to get a taste of the best of both worlds, what I would recommend is, like, you could do this. Like, you could do 4 out of 5 Black Ice, and you could put 1 in Epidemic to make your diseases last a little longer. So this is going to allow you to not have to refresh as often and be able to maximize how many death strikes you can fit into a disease window, right? So by increasing the duration of Blood Plague and Frost Fever by 3 seconds, you can hopefully get 1 more death strike in before you have to hit hit Pestilence. So you can do that, and you're still getting, not only are you getting half the benefit of Epidemic, you're still getting the majority of the benefit from Black Ice. You're getting, 80% of the benefit from Black Ice. So you're still maintaining that solid AoE threat, but you're also increasing the duration of your diseases. So I think this is a more acceptable run if you want the best of both worlds. But if you feel like that the disease duration isn't too impactful for you, and you have no issue refreshing the diseases, by all means. But again, increasing the duration means you could fit more death strikes in, so just keep that in mind. And this is really what I'm using, primarily speaking. I've tanked like maybe 4 or 5 dungeons as a Frost tank, and it's about what you expect. It's basically the same thing as Blood. You drop D&D, you're in Frost Presence, you hit Howling Blast to get initial threat, and then you're spreading your diseases. Like, it's really nothing crazy. And then Unholy is kind of the same thing, except instead of Scourge Strike, you're using Death Strike, right? You're just dropping D&D, diseases, and Death Strike. So, but in terms of maximizing my survivability, so I can pull like super big, because I don't really think I could pull super big as Frost or Unholy without some cause for concern. Maybe Frost because of Unbreakable Armor, but not really as Unholy. But with Blood, I could definitely pull super big, hit Vamp Blood, and I'm not going to die. The healer's not going to let me die, and I can keep doing that much more consistently, because Vamp Blood is a health and healing taken increase versus an armor increase, which only stops or reduces physical damage. So I think this is something that if you want to play around with, I think it's really good. Like I said, it gives you the best of both worlds. You get some of Epidemic, you get most of Black Ice, you get all of Morbidity, and those culminate into a lot. The armor value, if you're thinking, hey, why didn't he take max toughness? This is cool. This is cool and all, and it's going to increase the attack power you get via bladed armor. But again, things aren't really hitting that like super hard for me to say, yo, you definitely want to get 5 out of 5 toughness. Like, I think the only boss that even remotely scared me was Mother. And that's because her mechanic is meant to be soaked by 3 people. So it was still a little touch and go, but it wasn't even nothing crazy. So I wouldn't even say you need 5 out of 5 toughness realistically. So the last thing I want to talk about is racials and like what I chose and things of that nature when it comes to race and DKs. And I think this comes up a lot because Death Knights are the only class that can be any race, right? Across both Horde and Alliance. I think the next best one is Warrior, but Blood Elves can't be Warriors, right? So Death Knights have a lot of options, a lot of different racials to think about and to choose from. And I'm only going to talk about Alliance because I am an Alliance player. So for Alliance, for Death Knights, like the best PvE race is gonna be the Draenei, right? The hit aura that it provides for the raid, heroic presence, you shouldn't look at it as providing 1% hit. You're really providing 5% hit for your raid group. That's really how you should look at it. And there just isn't another ratio that kind of operates like that, because it allows you to like skew to more damage dealing. It allows you to get extra stats out of your raid by bringing 5 Draenei's and putting 1 in each party. Because now those DPS players don't have to, account for that 1% hit. They can go somewhere else with it. And when you culminate that with all of your DPS doing so, you get more damage out of your raid group. So the Draenei is always going to be looked at as probably the best PvE race just for that, because they're the only race that can do that, right? Now, when calling into specific roles, for DPS, I think you should be a Draenei. As much as I don't like their animations for both, the male and female models, or I'm sorry, body type 1 and 2, Draenei is probably the best for progression and for picking your raid. And even when it comes to when being Blood, right, it's still a good race for Blood. Not only are you still getting 1% hit is important for tanks. You get a heal that you can put on yourself, and you're gonna be a jewel crafter. You get increased jewel crafting skills. So Draenei has all of the things that a Blood DK wants. Not gonna lie. And in a different world, I probably should have picked Draenei, but I didn't. I am a Night Elf.
You what?
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, yo, so why would you pick arguably the most useless PvE race out of the Alliance races? And this goes back to what I said about dependent on your role and what you're doing for your raid group. Now, I'm going to be operating as the main tank for my raid group. So when thinking about that and thinking about how I want to maneuver these raids and, my effectiveness, I have to think about which race is the best for tanking. And by and large, I think the Night Elf is the best tanking race for Alliance. Now, why is that? Because there are obviously other classes or races, races that provide good tank ratios. Dwarves have Stone Skin, which gives them increased armor. The Draenei's, as we spoke about, have their heal over time. Their Gift of the Naru, which you can heal yourself on a 3-minute cooldown, right? Even the silly ass gnomes, and I think gnomes are the most useless races when it comes to the Alliance side. They have escape artists, so if you get unlucky and get rooted or get snared, you can get out of it. So, and that's kind of important as a Death Knight. Like, we're already slow, so maybe that might save you at one point or another. But in terms of pure tanking, here's why I think Night Elf is the best. Now, number one, what you got to understand is this: racials and talents are not subject to diminishing returns on stats. Now, what is diminishing returns? Well, the more of a stat you have, the less effective it is. We're coming from TBC. The avoidance stats like dodge, parry, they had increasing returns. So the more dodge you had, the better it was effectively. It was increasing returns. That's why you would see like Bear Druids just become the best tanks, because not only did they do the best single target threat, but they're fucking hard to hit. You couldn't hit them. So here we have the best single target threat tank. We have the highest armor tank, arguably the highest health pool tank, and now we can't even hit them because the best avoidance tank. So Blizzard imposed the diminishing return effect to kind of keep the power level down on the tanks, instead of doing things like stealth buffing raids like what they did with the Sunroll Radiance buff in Sunwell. So that's what I mean by DR. But talents and racials are not subject to diminishing returns, so you get the full amount. So as an example, the anticipation talent in the unholy tree that gives 5% increased dodge chance, that's a flat 5%. That doesn't, that doesn't weaken the more dodge that you have here. You're getting the full benefit from that. And the same can be said for the Night Elf ritual, which is quickness. Now, quickness has changed from TBC. It is no longer a 1% increased chance to dodge. It is now a 2% increased chance to be missed by a ranged or melee attack. That is substantially better. Let me tell you why. Because dodges and parries are one thing, but misses are a completely different thing. And having a 2% chance to not be hit by something that is not subject to diminishing returns is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to tanking. On top of the fact that missed chances aren't subject to stun negations. What do I mean by that? Well, when a tank is stunned, they can't dodge, they can't block, they can't parry. But they can still get missed. And because you have an increased 2% chance to be missed, your survivability won't falter as much, especially because in Wrath of the Lich King, the defense stat has been buffed. So you're getting a little bit more dodge, parry, and chance to miss from defense than you might remember in TBC. And obviously this is compounded by the fact that Night Elves get a flat 2% chance to miss. So Night Elves are just incredibly strong when it comes to avoidance. And obviously as a Death Knight who can't block, avoidance is pretty important. The next strength I'll give them is Shadow Meld. Now, Shadow Meld again is not the same Shadow Meld that you remember from TBC. Now it acts kind of like, I guess the best way to explain it is like a Rogue Vanish, where if you're in combat with something and you Shadow Meld, it's going to stop attacking you and go to the next highest threat target. This is pretty important because you might be thinking to yourself, why would I ever want to Shadow Meld something in the middle of a raid, especially if I'm a tank? Now, the reason why I say it's important because it works as a vanish. So if something is targeting you specifically, not your raid group, not your party, but you specifically, you have a reticle above your head and you hit Shadow Meld, it's going to negate that effect. It's not going to target you anymore. Now, this might be concerning for a few reasons, only because certain abilities might distarget you and save you, but it might immediately target someone else. So you have to be careful with it. But regardless to that factor, it allows the tank to completely negate an effect on them. That's huge. Besides the fact that you're going to save yourself some gold repairs if things go south. But anyway, Shadow Meld is pretty important when it comes to negating certain effects. Now, the argument can be made that I made the selfish choice and I only thought about my specific tanking and not the raid group's overall power. And on one hand, I might agree. Draenei, for the raid group is a more powerful race than Night Elf, in my opinion. However, when it comes to survivability, I don't think the Draenei beats the Night Elf. I don't think the 3-minute cooldown on Gift of the Naru stacks up with a flat 2% chance to miss at all times. Or to be missed at all times, not 2% chance to miss, but a 2% chance not to be hit at all times. I think that's how I was looking at it. And for blood DKs, I definitely think in terms of avoidance and tanking in general, the Night Elf is the best race. But that's really it for the video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you think I missed some things, let me know. I'll definitely respond to it. I'll try to get to it. I'm not gonna say definitely. I'll definitely try to get to it. Let me know how you feel about the pre-patch, how you feel about Death Knights overall. If you're tired of seeing them already, if you're tired of seeing your AVs and 60% of the AV is Death Knights. I know that's how it's been for me. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. As always, you guys have been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.